All of this is being done in the open and on platforms like GoFundMe, on Cash App, on Venmo, and probably the most successful campaign in Portland, like Minnesota, there was a bail fund that was set up so that immediately of the few people who actually had bails set because their charges were so serious, they would immediately get bailed out immediately. And then the charges would be dropped anyways. So they would get the money back and they would reinvest that in other things, such as giving grants to other Antifa chapters.
I know that just because I know you personally, I know that some of the sort of fame or notoriety that this has come with is not what you were looking for. And when I saw you that day, a couple weeks after you were attacked, you were obviously having some mental difficulties, some cognitive stuff that I'm thrilled to see you're better, obviously. But you've sort of become part of the story, which is a weird thing for a journalist. And Portland, they post about you, quite literally things like kill Andy Ngo. There are awful things. The mobs that come after you online, like I get a lot of hate, but your hate might trump my hate, Andy. I think it's possible. Can you talk about that, about just how personally that's been for you and how it sort of sucked you into the machine here?
Yeah, so it's, Antifa's extremism is not just their violence on the streets. A huge part of their intimidation is done through online or things that are borderline not illegal, such as showing up at people's homes, making it known that they know where you live, for example, writing your address in public places, and writing kill and murder Andy Ngo. They wanted me to live under like a constant fear. And it's unfortunate that they did succeed in that. And because at times when I was just carrying out regular activities in life, like going to the gym or grocery shopping, one of their members or sympathizers would recognize me and post and use some of these hashtags that would then be reshared really quickly with the intended goal to sort of do a cyber swarm where through online information they show up in real life to harass people. That's actually how they were able to assault Ted Wheeler. One of them happened to see him at a restaurant. Mm-hmm. So it's throughout 2020, I was really on borrowed time in Portland. They had fully doxed me, threatened to kill me many times. All this is reported to police, and nothing ever happened. And so,
did you ever try to escalate it beyond local Portland police? Like, did you ever talk to the FBI or anything like that?
I did report a lot of it to the FBI, and I never even heard back. They took an initial report, and nobody followed up with me, not even once.
God, it's just incredible. So let's talk a little bit more about the online component of this, because I know finally in the last couple of weeks, it looks like Twitter did remove a couple big Antifa accounts. We can all debate the merits of free speech and whether they were coordinating violence and all of that sort of thing. But where else are they coordinating? Because I know if I tweet something that's sort of against Antifa and then I suddenly get literally thousands of responses, often telling me to go kill myself or they're going to come get me or whatever it might be, that there's obviously some level of coordination. There are things happening not just on Twitter. Do you know about those sort of networks?
Yeah, so I write about that in the book. A lot of their organizing actually is done right in the open through Twitter, and being banned is not really much of a handicap to them because these accounts are all anonymous anyways, and they're plugged until they're connected to one another beyond Twitter through things such as Signal and Telegram. So when a major account is banned and they open up just another one immediately, that is announced through these channels, so then they immediately get new followers. But in Portland in particular, Twitter was the platform where most of the riot organizing happened. So you had like all of these ad hoc Antifa groups that popped up in the summer of 2020 that provided fundraise for riot gear, food. Food was the big thing and not insignificant because that helped attract vagrants who formed a big part of their units for rioting. money for travel. They went to other cities. There was some of them who went to Kenosha, some of them who went to DC. And all of this was being done in the open and on platforms like GoFundMe, on Cash App, on Venmo. And probably the most successful campaign in Portland, like Minnesota, there was a bail fund that was set up so that immediately of the few people who actually had bails set because their charges were so serious, they would immediately get bailed out immediately. And then the charges would be dropped anyways. So they would get the money back and they would reinvest that in other things, such as giving grants to other Antifa chapters.
Yeah.
So this is what I mean. This issue of allowing it to go on so long is that these systems and networks will last long beyond summer of 2020. And a lot of it, unfortunately, is also out of the reach of law enforcement, such as the encrypted communications that happen on Signal or Telegram.
Right. And we know that a whole bunch of Hollywood celebrities were promoting those GoFundMes to get these guys out. And am I mistaken, but didn't Kamala Harris actually promote one at one time?
She did. I write about that in the book. So she tweeted out a link to her millions of followers for the Minnesota Freedom Fund, which was the group that paid the bail for accused rioters in Minnesota. But it wasn't just rioters that were being bailed out. This organization was also paying the bail for accused murderers, accused rapists.
I mean, just staggering stuff. What about the relationship, though, with big tech? Because obviously, after the Capitol Hill riots on the 6th, we know what happened with Parler. Their servers were taken out by Amazon. We know Trump was banned by basically everybody. As I said before, a couple Antifa accounts have been taken out. But they really do play footsie with these things. And as you just said, Twitter is probably the main culprit here.
Yeah, so they've taken down a few Antifa accounts, but these are just drops in the bucket. I mean, Rose City Antifa is still on. The Youth Liberation Front is still on Twitter. And these are groups that were instrumental in years of violence in Portland. But the thing with big tech is, I mean, their bias is no secret. I think it's the same thing with journalism. Like, the staff, the people who are making up the workforce of these large corporations, they're largely sympathetic to the cause of what they believe these extremists are doing.
Right, which then causes them to allow a lot of this stuff to just slide, while on the other side, they certainly wouldn't be as accommodating. What do you think is sort of coming with all of this? Because, you know, there were a lot of people as 2020 ended, there was a real feeling, at least in the mainstream media, like, oh, all right, we got rid of Trump. You know, now BLM can calm down, Antifa can calm down, things will get better. Clearly after the 6th, and now everything that we've seen in our 20 some odd days of January 2021, like, it doesn't seem like things are going to calm down. What do you think?
Well, it didn't calm down starting in November. In November in Portland, in response to Biden winning, the people who took to the streets weren't Trump supporters in Portland. They were Antifa, and they marched around. They just severely damaged the church in their riot. The National Guard was finally activated for the first time that night. Too little, too late, in my view. I think what's going forward is that everything is like the path has already been paved. The mainstreaming of enough tenets of their ideology, the allies that they've gained in important institutions have been made, and of course, then the refined and perfected blueprints for insurrection has also had months and months of opportunity to improve, and establish itself. So the whole pretext that gave Antifa their meteoric rise in 2016 was in response to Trump, which they said was the rise of American fascism. I mean, that was rubbish at the time. It was a lie. Unfortunately, that argument was given legitimacy through the mainstream press. But with Trump out of the way, it's immaterial anyways, because their opposition really is not to Trump, it's to to the United States and what its founding ideals are. So these agitations to attack the U.S. will continue, and they've latched on currently to attacking law enforcement because that's going to be around regardless of what administration would be in power.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about the media instead of nonstop yelling, check out our media playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, check out the full episode playlist. They're both right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.